I think you're going to also enjoy this next story too, because in 1338, 24 years after the Battle of Bannockburn, English forces, led by the Earl of Salisbury, spotted a chance to capture Dunbar Castle when the lord of the castle, Patrick Dunbar, was away fighting with the king further north. Unfortunately, they didn't factor in one person who would try and stop them. That was Lady Agnes Randolph, or Black Agnes, as she became known. And as you are about to find out, Black Agnes was not a woman to be trifled with.
In January 1338, this castle came under siege from the first Earl of Salisbury, William Montague. Patrick, Earl of Dunbar, was at the time away with the Scottish army, leaving his wife to look after the castle in his absence. The Earl of Salisbury saw his opportunity to siege the castle. However, he didn't vouch for his wife, Agnes. She was a countess in her own right and a woman warrior. She was locally known as a Black Agnes because of her black hair, dark eyes and sallow skin, and she was a formidable woman. As the Earl of Salisbury approached the castle, he demanded that Agnes surrender it to the Scots. But Agnes leaned over the battlements and she cried out, "Of Scotland's king I hold my house. I give him meat and fee, and I will keep my good old house while my house will keep me."
The siege began. First, the Earl commanded his men to employ the catapults and hurl huge rocks at the ramparts. This attempt to breach the walls was met with disdain from Agnes, who, in between the attacks, sent her ladies-in-waiting out in their Sunday best to dust off the marks left by the missiles with their lace handkerchiefs. So why was Salisbury so determined to capture Dunbar Castle? To find out more, I asked Gordon Easingwood, chair of Dunbar and District History Society.
There's been a fortification in this site for more than 1,000 years. We are now standing on the Victoria Harbour Pier, which was built in 1842. But prior to that, you've got 25, 30 feet till the sand, you know, the natural beach. So what you're looking at is 5 stories high, and then it went 207 feet over the harbour entrance to the other side.
Was it actually normal, though, for people like the Earl of Dunbar himself to leave the castle unattended just with his wife and a few servants looking after them?
Well, I don't suppose so, but if you've got as your wife Earl Murray's daughter, you're in safe hands, of which it turned out to be true. That's to Lord Salisbury's great cost. He thought he could just walk in here. Black Agnes had other ideas, and she held out, and eventually they had to retreat.
Agnes's plan was simple. She would wait for the Earl of Salisbury to lead the charge into her castle, and as he entered, she would bring the portcullis down, separating him from his men. Unfortunately for Agnes, however, one of his soldiers saw her plan, pushed the Earl out of the way as the portcullis came crashing down, therefore locking him out of the castle and preventing Agnes from fulfilling her plan. So she contented herself by shouting over the battlements that she was disappointed that Montague couldn't join her for supper that evening and help her to fight off the English invaders. The Earl of Salisbury had now been thrice thwarted by the Scotswoman. He'd actually captured Agnes's brother, John Randolph, 3rd Earl of Moray, and threatened to hang him. Agnes merely laughed over the edge of the battlement and shouted down, "Go ahead, hang him. I'll inherit his title." But by now, word had got back to Ramsay of Dalhousie, who came to Agnes's rescue. But he didn't come by road. He came by sea. And when they landed, they chased the English army back to camp and freeing Agnes from her siege. And that is the story of Black Agnes and the siege of Dunbar Castle.